Wow, okay. Had that too loud. All right, we are live, it looks like, on all platforms. So let's get into this. Welcome to day 26, Australia Day. Happy Australia Day to those out there, or Australia Day, mate. It's for Australia Day to be coming back into popularity, although not everywhere, from what I understand. So we're in day 26. We're going to be doing chapter 26. So let's start. Father, I just want to thank you for this country. I thank you for the freedom that still exists, although there are attempts to limit it. I want to thank you for the gospel that shines over this place and the revival that you have coming for this country. And I just pray that you'll bless it, bless our leaders, remove those who are in the way of your work, bring more in who are needing to be in positions of power in politics, and be with your church leaders, be with those who are seeking to bring your kingdom into every sphere of life. And we thank you for all that you do in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, so we are in this chapter. Let's do it. Verse 1, like snow in summer. So just the first 12 verses in this chapter are sometimes called the Book of Fools. So it's because they deal with the actions of fools. And as we look at these, we're going to be discerning what it is that fools do, what we should do when we come across a fool, etc., like that. All right. So verse 1. Like snow in summer or rain in harvest, so honor is not fitting for a fool. So what this is saying is that snow is out of place in summer, rain is out of place during the harvest, not welcome. Put it that way. And honor is not welcome or is out of place on a fool. A fool is someone who is not. And I've mentioned this before. I want to kind of define what a fool is. A fool is not someone who... So you've got three categories. You've got the wise. That's the people who are pursuing wisdom. They're pursuing understanding and seeking to grow, to walk godly lives, to be righteous. I mean, you see all of those things. You've got the fools, and then you've got the naive. And so you've got these two categories. The naive are those who just don't know wisdom and are not... Yeah, they're yet. So this is the simple person, the naive person, the innocent person. They haven't pursued wisdom yet, but they also haven't shunned it. Like they're not. It's not like they're going contrary to wisdom. But the fool is a person who says in their heart there is no God. It means that they deliberately shun the idea of God, which is the beginning of wisdom. Fear of God, fear of Yahweh is the beginning of wisdom. They say in their heart there is no Yahweh, meaning that they're walking determinedly away from wisdom. So a fool does not deserve honor, just like summer doesn't deserve snow and rain. Harvest doesn't deserve rain. Verse 2, like a fluttering bird or like a flying swallow, so a curse without cause does not come home to rest. So this one's interesting because a bird, when it's out there flying, it doesn't fly forever. It's not out there flying forever. It's and a swallow, it's a type of bird. So just two types of birds. So birds, when they're flying, they eventually come home. And so does a curse. A curse that has been placed upon someone because of actions. Now, a bit like God's not out there, like when we talk about curses in today's world, we could think of a curse word like a swear word, or we could think of a magical curse, a hex or something. Like that's the popular notion based on media, on fiction. But a curse, what is a curse in the Bible? Curse is, I've talked about blessing and grace, at least I did on Saturday for church. Grace is divine empowerment to fulfill extrinsic function, which means it's there to, it's God's power to do what you were never meant to do. Blessing is divine empowerment to fulfill intrinsic function. That's divine power, God's power, to do what you were made to do. Curse is the absence of the blessing. It's where God removes his power, which means that you are unable to do what you were made to do. So a curse on the earth. So when God cursed the earth, he withdrew his power so that the thorns and thistles would come, which were protective measures that didn't need to exist while God was empowering plant life. When he cursed Eve, meaning that there would be pain in childbearing, he was removing his own power so that it just became harder. When he cursed Adam, saying that you're going to work the toil and you're going to sweat and all of this sort of stuff, he was saying, I'm removing power. I'm not making something new. I'm just removing what I was already giving you. And so we kind of see the same thing with the serpent when he removed, like the idea is that the serpent being made to crawl on his belly had something that many didn't have to previous to that, which most people understand as being wings. The serpent of old, the dragon. So it was a dragon-like creature, and so God removes its wings, removes its any legs, so that it is now. So it's taking away. God takes away, and a curse is God taking away something. So if you walk in a way that is departing from God, like a fool does, then you will walk away from the power that comes from God. So that means the curse will come with it. So hopefully that helps that make sense. Verse 3, a whip for the horse and a bridle for the donkey and a rod for the back of fools. Okay, so horses need to be trained and tamed. Donkeys need to be bridled. And fools need to be disciplined, is what this is saying, verse 3. Verse 4, do not answer a fool according to his folly, lest you yourself also be like him. This one is one that I've learned in several different ways. For example, on Facebook, on social media, I should say, there are lots of fools. And it can be very tempting to kind of parlay with them on the same level that they come across. But the problem is that when you look back at things that you've said in those interactions, you're kind of like, what was I thinking? It's easy to be brought down to their level. It happens a lot when, in siblings as well. It can be easy to revert to the lowest common denominator. And so, be careful that when you interacting with a fool that you don't answer them on their platform. Look at Jesus and how he answers foolish questions, and he gets a lot of them. He does get quite a few foolish questions in his ministry. When he's dealing with a fool, he deals with them. He deals with them not according to their platform that they're coming from, but he often comes at it from a side angle. Like when Jesus interacts with the person who comes and says, and these are disingenuous questions, so the Sadducees come to him and they say, this woman was married to a man and he died, and then she married his brother and then he died, and this is, according to levirate marriage. and then so on down to 7 brothers, and they all died, and who is she going to be married to in the kingdom? And so the Sadducees are coming at this from a question of doubting the resurrection. They don't believe in the resurrection because it's not explicit in the Torah, is what they believe, and they don't take anything else. They just take the Torah. They're Torahites, and so because it's not in the Torah explicit, they say, well, it's not something for us to be focused on. And they ask this question, which is meant to be a gotcha question. It's not meant to be. They're not intending this as a serious one. In fact, they've probably utilized this question to shut people up on the other side of us, on the Pharisee side of this, over and over again. But Jesus comes at it with so they're asking a question in this direction, and Jesus comes at it from this direction, and he answers it side on in a way that just leaves them marveling. And you see this over and over about the way that Jesus answers. He answers not according to the platform where the question is being asked, but according to his own platform. He doesn't descend to their level. And so he's a good example of someone who doesn't answer a fool according to their folly. And verse 5, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own estimation. So this one seems to contradict the one before it. So the note here says the rabbi solved it by saying that verse 4 referred to secular things, but verse 5 referred to sacred or religious controversies. Well, this doesn't resolve the issue. It does give a sound application for the two verses together. In negligible issues, just ignore the stupid person, but in issues that matter, the fool must be dealt with, lest credence be given to what he says. The text presents 2 proverbs, each of which present an aspect of the whole truth. One should not lower himself to the level of the fool, but there are times when the lesser of two evils is to do so, other than let the fool gain confidence that he is a wise person or be considered wise by others. Paul, for example, talked like a fool to correct the foolish ideas of the Corinthians. And so that's in 2 Corinthians 11, verse 16 to 17, and chapter 12, verse 11. I think this is giving 2 options on dealing with a fool. So the one of them is dealing with a fool, don't answer them according to their folly, lest you be like him. But then the other option is to answer him lest he be wise in his own estimation. I do like the way that the rabbis have resolved this contradiction. So you've got to take... With what wisdom does is wisdom says, okay, when do we apply what we've learned? Wisdom is about application. And so you've got a choice. You can descend, and when you deal with a fool according to his folly, you actually can descend into his orbit. But if you don't answer them, then they can think that they are right. And so I've had to deal with this on Facebook in terms of, I think what the answer to this is, stick on your own platform and expose their folly. Don't step off your platform, but only answer a fool if it's important, if it matters. And it doesn't always matter. Sometimes you can just let something go. But the danger is, you might let something go. If you let something go that actually does matter, it can grow and fester. I would like to give an example here of, things that I think Christians have let go of in terms of not really bothering to answer are things like the foolish notions that Christmas is pagan, Easter is pagan, etc. While Christmas and Easter are not the right timing for the events, they're definitely not pagan. And so Christians have often gone, this is in the too hard basket, let's just leave it alone and it'll go away. In the past it might have, but with the ease of access of information on social media, you can no longer do that. And that's why one of our ministry objectives is to answer questions like this, answer these far out ideas that, like, for example, things that I never thought I'd see resurface in today's age, like the flat earth. The flat earth theory is I have observed the earth to be functioning in a way that can only support a globe, a spherical globe that spins, that rotates. I have observed that, and so there is no way that I can be convinced otherwise because of my own scientific observations to that. Um, but somehow that one is growing because a lot of people are not scientifically minded, and so they don't answer these things. They think it's stupid and it'll go away. And look, it is folly, but it won't go away. That's the problem. If you don't give a good answer, it won't go away. Like it'll just continue to fester. And I think the time is now for some of these good answers. So even when you deal with the flat Earth or any sort of thing, you got to be careful not to become the sort of enter into the same rhetoric that they use, that and the same types of baiting that they use. For example, one of the things that they do is that they will people who I think are fools. They will create big long things that they can copy paste to try and dominate comment sections, and I find this to be an infuriating way to deal with people, because what they are doing is they're not actually engaging in dialogue. They're just trying to brute force their view of a topic into being reality. I did one time deal with a person on a topic like this where they had a whole bunch of things that they would copy paste, and I systematically took the time, which was exhausting, but I took the time to go and create my own response to every one of their copy paste spams, and I would just copy paste it underneath them, and the outcome was that they basically went away because I had nullified them. But at the end, I felt dirty. I felt kind of like, oh, I could have done so much other things with that, so many other things with that time than do that. So I mean, that is an option you can do. So you've got to take it. Don't answer or do answer, but notice that there's two outcomes if you answer or not answer with regards to a fool. Verse 6, like cutting off the feet or drinking violence, so is sending a message by the hand of a fool. So, cutting off the feet. So basically, you are you're crippling yourself. You're crippling. If you send a message by the hand of a fool, what you are doing is you are allowing them to. You're putting it in jeopardy. You're putting that message in jeopardy. You'd have no idea whether that's going to reach its intended target audience, and whether it will be reaching it intact. So that's what I would say by that. Drinking violence. Because the idea here I get is like message that could be diplomatic. Like that idea of drinking violence. You're bringing calamity upon yourself. Verse 7, like legs that hang limp from the lame, so is a proverb in the mouth of fools. Okay, so a fool might read these and speak them, but it has no power with them because they're not living it. And so fools often like to sound wise. They will speak they will talk the talk, but they're not walking the walk. Verse 8, like tying a stone in a sling, so is giving honor to a fool. Okay, so, think of David. He put the stones in the sling, but he didn't tie them in there, and that allowed those stones to do what they were supposed to do, which is to fly loose and hit their target. But if you tie the stone in the sling, you actually make it impotent. And so giving honor to a fool makes honor impotent. It makes, not only does it not suit that fool, but it detracts from the idea of honor. You actually, people who are honorable, like, so for example, let's say there is an award. Let's say there's a medal, and an example of this would be, I guess, the Presidential Medal of Freedom in America, or even I didn't see who won Australia Day awards today, but in this politicized environment where you can see people getting awards that are completely undeserving, and in some ways only receiving them because it's a political gesture. So for example, I'll give one. I don't think she won the Presidential Medal of Honor. I think it was a Citizens Award. But recently, President Obama gave an award, like I think it's the second highest civilian award, to Liz Cheney, who is a massive warmonger. And to me, not only did she not deserve that, but that reduced the honor and prestige of that level, of that medal, because it means that everyone else who has received it in the past, who might have received it deservingly, is tarnished by the fact that she has received that now. So it's like tying the stone in a sling. Verse 9, like a thorn that goes into the hand of a drunkard, so is a proverb in the mouth of a fool. So a thorn going into the hand of a drunkard, it's why is the thorn going into the hand? It's because that drunkard is stumbling, and they injure themselves because they've fallen, and so a proverb in the mouth of a fool is that they're unable to handle it. They're unable to handle it. It's just going to go in. Verse 10, like an archer who wounds at random, so is the one who hires a fool or hires any passerby. So an archer who wounds at random, they are not, like they're lacking the ability to, they're lacking target. They're lacking the, they're lacking direction and discipline. And so is the person who hires a fool. If you hire a fool, you're actually bringing upon yourself and others harm, because and you will be responsible for that harm. You will be responsible for that because a disciplined person will aim the bow and shoot the target they intend, but a fool is unlikely to is likely to do hit about just about anyone. Verse 11, like a dog that returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats his folly. And I don't know if you've seen this, but I've seen dogs actually go back and eat their vomit. It's disgusting. And I've always thought of this proverb because of that. It's just such a vivid imagery. A fool's folly is is like vomit, is what this is saying. What a fool produces is chunder. It's vile. And yet a fool, like if a normal person vomits, I don't know about you, but I try to do everything not to vomit. And if I have vomited, I do a very big self-analysis of what was it that possibly caused this particular set of circumstances that led to vomit. I remember that I was having an issue with heartburn at one stage where I was waking up at night and almost vomiting. Like I was like, no, I'm not going to vomit, and I resisted it, but it still came up. It still came up to the point where it's like hard to go back to sleep because you've had that taste that's in your mouth. And I realized later on that I was eating too late, and so it was the eating too late. And as soon as I stopped that eating too late, I stopped needing to having this issue, and a fool wouldn't do that. A fool wouldn't go through those processes. They'll just return to their vomit. They'll go back to the things that are vile and disgusting. So that's that proverb there. In verse 12, the last of our book of fools. Do you see a man wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for him. So here we have another category, is a person. So there is a note here. So there is a fool within the category of fool. There are two types of fools. There is a fool that has hope, and there is a fool that doesn't have hope. Most of what the book of Proverbs has said is, Yeah, so a fool, if disciplined, can turn away from their folly, I guess, like can. But if that fool is self-conceited in terms of if they consider themselves to be wise in their own eyes, if they've called light darkness and darkness light, then there's no hope for them. There's no hope. There's more hope for just a simple fool who is hasn't determined that they're wise than for the person who thinks that they're wise in their own in mind. I've had encounters with many of these types of people, and the only thing you can do is just walk away. If a person shows no sign of openness to being wrong, if they show no sign of, I change tact. As soon as I determine through testing it out, as soon as I determine that someone has no inclination to admit even the slightest thing in error, I shift from seeking to persuade them to the next question is anyone else watching? On social media, people are watching, so I may continue only to expose their folly if I see their audience or the general audience is interested in the topic and that it may be a lesson to others. If that's not the case, I just, what Jesus said, dust off off your feet and move on, because you're wasting your time. That is not a person that is going to that is not a person upon whom your time should be used. There are so many more people in this world who are open. That person is just going to chew up your time. So that's the Book of Fools. Verse 13. The sluggard says, "There is a lion in the road, a lion in the streets." Like so. Does this continue? Okay. This one's about the sluggard. So this is a section about the sluggard. Let me just have a look here. How far does that go? Okay, so this is called the Book of Sluggards by some commentators. So it goes till verse 18. The sluggard says, "There is a lion in the road, a lion in the streets." Now this we've talked about this. This is kind of repeating something from earlier in Proverbs, whereabouts is that from actually? It's a repeat of 22 verse 13. So the sluggard, the lazy person, is saying, "There's a lion. I could be damaged. I could be hurt," and so they're justifying their laziness by the possible, and it's really like a lion in the streets or a lion in the road. Even in their day was extremely uncommon. Lions don't go towards civilizations, but they're saying, like, there's a possibility I could get hurt. Well, yeah, there's a possibility you could get hit by a meteor. It's basically saying that sort of level of hyperbole, and they're using that to justify why they're being lazy. So then, verse 14, like a door that turns on its hinges, so a sluggard turns on his bed. So, the idea is a lazy person, a door is fixed, and just all it does is turn on one point. It's fixed in place. And a sluggard or a lazy person is the same. They are fixed on their bed, and they don't want to move. Verse 15, the sluggard plunges his hand in the dish, and he is too lazy to bring it back to his mouth. This is again a repeat of a verse in Proverbs 19:24, and as I said there when we did chapter 19, it's saying it's easy to put your hand down because that's going with gravity, but he's so lazy he won't even bring it back up out of the jar to feed himself. Again, some hyperbole about the lazy person. The sluggard, verse 16, the sluggard is wiser in his own estimation than 7 people who respond with good sense. So a lazy person will think that their justifications are wiser than seven people who are actually using common sense. Verse 17, like one who grabs a wild dog by the ears, so is the person passing by who becomes furious over a quarrel not his own. Oh, this is so good in the realm of social media, and it's something that I can take to heart as well. Uh, have you ever seen an ongoing, you know, back and forth between two people and being tempted to get involved in that? That's the situation that's being described here. So uh, it's like grabbing a wild dog by the ears. If you get involved in a fight online or in person, you could end up with both people against you. You have no idea what if you're coming in partway through something, you may not know what has been said before. Even in a social media thing, there might have been stuff that's from previous discussions. You don't know what you're getting into. So um, let a quarrel go unless you're absolutely drawn into it. Unless you're there to defend, to protect something. Or be very careful. Be careful that you can actually handle it, is what's saying. Verse 18, like a madman who shoots firebrands, verse 18 and 19, who shoots firebrands and deadly arrows, so is a person who deceives his neighbor and says, was I not only joking? Okay, just want to have a look at what this one says. Yeah, okay, I'll come back to this one in a second. Yeah. So what I've encountered many instances where you're talking to someone and they might throw offense out there and like be insulting. They might insult you or insult other people, and if you pull them up on their behavior, instead of owning it and apologizing, they'll say, I was just joking. And this has become a way of deflecting from taking ownership. And it's deceptive, because if you're joking is the purpose of joking like is to make people laugh. But if you're causing pain to the person, then it's not joking. We do this, I've done it. I will put my hand up and say I've done this before as well. I have said things that are harsh, and then tried this tactic. I'm not saying I've done it recently, but I have done this in my life, and it's not a responsible thing to do. So we can learn from that. So don't think that you can get out of it with saying I was just joking if you're actually speaking venom. Venom is never a joking matter. Verse 20, where there is no wood, a fire goes out, and where there is no gossip, contention ceases. I love this. It's very similar to what we kind of looked at yesterday, talking about gossip. Or was it? We've had one like this, not with the imagery of wood and fire, but that's so good. I did talk about how wouldn't it be great if God's people gossiped about the good things rather than about all of our problems that we have with one another. Life would be a lot better, and the church would be a lot better, and our communities would be our effort would be focused on helping our communities more than tearing one another apart. Gossip is horrible. I hate it. Like charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious person to kindle strife. So this kind of continues that idea that, and I think there's a theme here from verse 18. Like this idea of harm with words. Like charcoal is to burning coals and wood to fire, so is a contentious person to kindle strife. So a person who is contentious, who is constantly finding fault with people and things, they are just like wood on the fire of strife. Verse 22, the words of a gossip are like delicious morsels. They go down into a person's innermost being. I think we've seen something very similar to that. Gossip is juicy. God, if it wasn't exciting, if it wasn't something that brought people joy, or not joy but happiness, no one would do it. Now it's not joy, it's happiness. I mean, media is built upon, like, look at soap operas. Soap operas are constantly running, and some soap operas have run for decades because of the idea of drama and all, salacious, interpersonal issues that go on. So gossip is delicious. It doesn't mean that it's good. Okay, so and when it goes down into the innermost being, it will change you. Just like unhealthy food that might be delicious changes you and makes you unhealthy. Unhealthy gossip will change you and make you more and more like that. And it also feeds the addiction. Unhealthy food, like sugary foods, feed an addiction for sugar, and unhealthy gossip feeds an addiction for gossip. So it goes down into the innermost being. Like a coating of glaze over earthenware are fervent lips with an evil heart. So, earthenware is fragile because it can break quite easily, as pots and clay. It's clay. It's heated clay, and a coating of glaze, it gives a sheen to it. It gives an appearance of being stronger than it is, when it actually isn't. So it's like it's covering up how fragile it actually is, and covering up the baseness of it. It makes it look better than what's underneath. Is, I think, what's this parable is saying. The one who hates others disguises it with his lips, but he stores up deceit within him. So we've talked about what hate is. Hate is devaluing another person, and the person who devalues other people disguises it by often speaking in the presence of that person the very things that they would never say outside of their presence. I have made it a personal code of honor that I will not speak about someone outside of their presence what I would not speak to them in their presence. And I very rarely have, there are things that I've had to deal with where, I've had to deal with interpersonal conflict, but as a mediator between other people, and I'm not willing to say to, within that process, what I wouldn't say to the person directly. And when I've had conflict and I've had issues with other people, I have always been, and it's got me into trouble, I've always been willing to say to the person what I might have said about the person. And this goes both ways. I think that we should also be willing to say good to a person that we would say about that person as well. Like, we should be willing to never say anything. We should not be too double-minded, fork-tongued. We should speak to a person what we would say about that person. That's what I'm saying. Verse 25. When he speaks graciously, do not believe him, for there are 7 abominations within him. Okay, so this is talking again still about the person who hates others. I just want to have a look at this note. 7 abominations. Okay, so complete abomination. So his heart is filled to the brim with hate. So when he speaks graciously, do not believe him. So he speaks in a way that is that does not reflect his actual heart of hate. His heart of hate, as I said, I'm just going to repeat again, is devaluing someone else, and creating a caste system of worth within humanity. And I think we should never, we should aim not to do anything that's hating. Though his hatred may be concealed by deceit, verse 26, his evil will be uncovered in the assembly. So what this is saying is, in the assembly, when people come together, the if he's saying good things to you and bad things about you to someone else, when an assembly has come together, the contradictions will be exposed, and that is why that's natural justice there. That's why in the mouth of two or three witnesses things should be demonstrated. So people who engage in this, they are doing it to their own detriment because it will eventually be exposed. You know, um, you know, especially in today's age where you've got the internet is forever. If you type something on the internet, don't expect it never to come back and bite you. You know, you've got to be careful when you say something to someone out there. Verse 27, the one who digs a pit will fall into it. The one who rolls a stone, it will come back on him. So I think this is still talking about the hateful person. I think we've had the book of the fool, the book of the lazy person, the book of the gossip, and now we're in the book of the hater. So the one who digs a pit will fall into it. And this is talking about how they have dug a pit with their tongue. It's going to come back on. They'll fall into it, and the stone will come back on them. So the rolling a stone means they've rolled it into a place where it can fall upon the person. So they're setting a trap, and they fall into the trap. Verse 28, a lying tongue hates those crushed by it, and a flattering mouth works ruin. So again, I think this is the same context, and this is our final one for today. A lying tongue hates those crushed by it. So the reason that they engage in their deceit, in their lying, is because they don't believe that person is worthy. That person is devalued in their eyes. So what we have here in this chapter 26 is we have counsel about not becoming and also dealing with fools. We have counsel about lazy people or the sluggard. We have counsel about gossip, and we have counsel about haters, people who are deceitful and hate other people. I think that these are good collections that are warnings that we can heed, because these are the sort of people we will come across in life: fools, people who are lazy, people who are gossips, and people who are hateful, full of hate. They're not hateful doesn't mean worthy of hate. Hateful means full of hate, and so these are people that we will come across. And how do we deal with a fool? Well, carefully, tenderly. Don't get too involved. How do we deal with a lazy person? Well, we leave them alone. Don't try to incorporate them into what we're doing. Or they're not going to be any use to us. How do we deal with a gossip? Well, we don't engage with it. Don't feed the fire. Walk away. And how do we deal with a hater? Well, speak to other people and expose them. If someone seems like they're giving you speaking out of two sides of their mouth, then just compare notes with other people. In the assembly, they will be uncovered. So that's today. That was actually quite a short one. Tomorrow we have chapter 27. 27 has 27 verses. Okay, so we're on the home stretch. This is the last week. So if you're joining us at any time, this is the final week of our Welcome with Wisdom. We're getting into the final stretch. In fact, 27, 28, and 29 are our final chapters in the collections of Proverbs. And then in chapter 30, just to give you a bit of an idea of where we're going, chapter 30, we have a new section. It's kind of like the epilogue is chapter 30 and 31. We've got the words of Agur, and in chapter 30, and then we have the words of Lemuel in chapter 31. So we're on our way. We're moving towards the end, and it's been a great journey so far. Let's finish this strong this week. Father, I just want to thank you for these warnings and these counsels that are collected together regarding fools, lazy people, gossips, and haters. These are people that we run into every day. Help us to apply this wisdom when we deal with these people that are sadly walking contrary to you, and help us to manifest love, manifest discretion, manifest firmness as well, and discipline, but not to be caught up in the weeds. Help us to stay away from distractions and to focus on our work, our gospel commission, and our families, and all of that you've laid before us. And so, Father, I pray for those who with us today, that they'll have a good sleep. I pray that you'll be with those who watch this tomorrow, and that it'll be a blessing to them, and they'll have a great day. I also want to pray for people who are going back to school this week. I pray for safety on the roads for people who are traveling after the Australia Day weekend or at the end of the Australia Day weekend. I pray that you'll keep them safe. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, have a great night. I will look forward to seeing you tomorrow for day